This snapshot depicts the bottom half of Main Street, with the Dockside restaurant visible on the left. Dick McGrae's little engine repair shop is visible in the older image, but it has since been replaced with a public park. And big Coca-Cola sign was painted on the end wall of a row of buildings in the early 20th century, but it has since been concealed. The difference between these photographs is 34 years. These photographs depict the vista from Main Street down Federal Street, with Dockside Restaurant visible on the left. The building on the right, once the Ocean House Hotel, withstood fires in 1865 and 1873. It later evolved into a market and is currently home to the Ocean House, a restaurant, and a gift shop. The Masonic Building on the southeast corner of Main and High Streets was constructed between 1878 and 1879. The People's National Bank was established in 1893, then renamed the Waldo Trust Company in 1904, and went bankrupt in 1927. It was previously home to Dr. Weber's dentistry practice and James Patty and Son Insurance, but now contains the Out on a whimsy toy store. This two-story brick structure with stone trim, erected in 1844 by merchant Joshua Pickard, is located at 104 Main Street in Belfast, Maine. It has hosted a variety of companies throughout the years, including the Belfast Coop Art Fellows Gallery and the Waldo Independent newspaper. Endicott Johnson Shoes, shown first, called it home in the middle of the 20th century. Today it houses the Sweet Monkey Business Bakery. This is the Apollos Alden House, built between 1805 and 1809 at the corner of Washington and Bridge Streets. Apollos Alden, a housewright and toll gatherer for the Lower Bridge in 1810, was the house's original owner. Lightning struck it several times throughout the years, and it has undergone 3 significant renovations. The beautiful Johnson Pratt Mansion on Primrose Hill, built in 1812, has remained in the Johnson and Pratt families for over 150 years. Throughout its lengthy history, the house has maintained its historical significance, serving as a witness to numerous generations. It is now recognized as an important part of the region's cultural legacy. Photos of Main Street overlooking the Passagassawakkeag River in downtown Belfast in Belfast, Maine, show the changes that have transpired throughout time. The historic photographs depict the town's past, but the modern images show its expansion and the preservation of its distinct identity. The Austrian Parliament, seen from the Ringstrasse, depicts its evolution from roughly 1900 to the present. It was built between 1874 and 1883 by Theophil von Hansen and is influenced by ancient Greek architecture. It houses the National Council and the Federal Council. Many historicist-style structures may be found along Vienna's Ringstrasse. Eppelviken, a lovely suburb, began to grow in the early 1910s. The car parked in the center is most likely a 1927 Essex Super 6 sedan. Recreating the original perspective was difficult because a vegetation now obscured the original vantage point. As a result, the modern photograph was shot significantly more forward. The crosswalk on High Street in Belfast, Maine, as viewed in 1990 versus today, provides insight into the city's development. Looking up Primrose Hill from Main Street, you'll notice the renowned City Block building, which dates back to 1850. The structure, with signage for Republican Journal, steam-powered printing, and Clark Insurance and Real Estate, is an important part of Belfast's architectural legacy. In 1909, the move of the 50-ton bank vault from the old Belfast National Bank to the newly formed City National Bank on Main Street gave an ideal opportunity for a local photographer to capture the scene. The photograph shows the bank president, dressed in a dark suit and cap, overseeing the major move. A crowded street scene at Post Office Square in 1900 depicts a dynamic mix of horses, carriages, and, if you look closely, a single automobile. The Harridan Block, which housed the Belfast Savings Bank and the telephone exchange offices, was a notable structure and served as a hub of activity in the early 20th century. Memorial Hall, now known as Belfast City Hall, was built by Civil War veterans and opened its doors in 1890. In its early days, the building served as a multi-purpose hub, holding not only city offices, but also the police and fire services under one roof. The 1969 Memorial Day March was photographed as it passed by the structure that would eventually become the Belfast Museum. The image shows the junior high school band and Girl Scouts marching toward Main Street, which adds to the scene's vintage attractiveness. The Belfast Historical Society and Museum in Belfast, Maine, has undergone considerable changes during the past century, from 1920 to 2020. This historic building has undergone several alterations, reflecting its evolving role in conserving and promoting the community's rich legacy. The Peck House, constructed in 1809 by Samuel Peck, Belfast's first cabinet manufacturer, is an important piece of local history. Peck, who relocated from Massachusetts in 1804, was the last person in Belfast to see George Washington. Many of the house's original architectural characteristics have survived, despite being enlarged in the 19th century. A view of Upper Main Street, including the Belfast Post Office. The first image is from a postcard from the early 1900s, while the second is a 2022 snapshot taken by museum intern Haley Withy. These photographs depict the changes that have occurred in this historic neighborhood. Photos of Post Office Square in Belfast, Maine, including views of Key Bank and High Street, demonstrate the growth of this central locale. The juxtaposition of the past and present creates a visual narrative of how the square has evolved over time, reflecting both historical preservation and community transformation. On 1905, Mr. Selwyn Thompson opened his clothes factory on Church Street, specializing on workwear. By 1915, the factory had grown to employ approximately 60 people, the majority of whom were women operating sewing machines. Each week it shipped 300 to 350 dozen overalls and pants. MB Cleaners was the building's final occupant, and it is decorated with flags and bunting in honor of Old Home Week. The Gouverneurs William G. Crosby School, which opened in 1923 and closed in 1992, was purchased by the National Theater Workshop from New York City in 1995. In 2016, a new owner purchased the site and began renovations to turn it into the Crosby Center, a venue for local theatrical plays, events, and apartments. The structure acquired notoriety as the high school location in the film Peyton Place. Looking east from the northwest corner of Main and High Streets, you can see the Masonic Building and the former Windsor Hotel. Built in 1803, the Windsor Hotel was a landmark until it was sadly destroyed by fire in 1960. It then became home to the A&P, and now it houses the Belfast Coop,